Greetings, my friends. We are live. I hope. If you can't hear me, please type something in the comments. I'm wearing my headphones because there might be slight traffic in my apartment beyond the closed door, so I don't want to expose you to that while we're doing our sit. So, hopefully, you all have a quiet place to do today's Sunday Zazen. For those of you who are new to this, I haven't done one of these in a while, so I'm happy to be doing this again. And I'm happy it seems so far that technically we're okay. Last time I did this, we had some serious technical difficulties. So I think we're good today. So we start the sit with a little bit of Zazen instruction. And this is kind of almost like form. So there's a lot of form in Zen Buddhism, which is to say, ritualistic. I don't want to say rules, but there's structure to the practice. So when you go to Zendo, everybody sits together in the meditation hall, and there's a certain energy to that, and that immediately aligns everybody's minds in a certain way. But we don't have that when we're sitting by ourselves, and in a sense, we're sitting by ourselves right now. So the form, I guess that I do to start these sits out is just give a little bit of zazen instruction, and the reason that I do that is to kind of we can't see each other. We're not sitting with each other, so the zazen instruction kind of puts all of us on the same page in terms of our bodies and gets us maybe out of our heads and away from our computers. I mean, God bless the computer and the internet for bringing us together, but also um, it captures our attention, the computer, and we spend a lot of our time looking at computers. So, if possible, actually, you can just turn away from the computer right now and just listen to my voice as I give some zazen instruction. So I'll start to sit with two rings or three rings from my bell, and I will end the sit with one ring from the bell. So we'll do a 25-minute sit, which is the customary length of a sit in Rinzai Zen meditation. Uh, and then we'll do a 5-minute, what we call a rest kinhin, which is a silent meditative break. You can go to the bathroom then. And then we'll come back and we'll do 25 more minutes. And then when the two sits are over, I'll share a very short reading from this very, very old book, Buddha is the Center of Gravity, which is sort of a self-published book that a community put out where my teacher had given a lecture back in the 70s. Just found something in there that I want to share with you, and I'll talk a little bit about that. And that will be our Sunday practice. Thank you for joining. And forget if I said this, but this sit is for the paying patrons only. So thank you for your support. So you are sitting on the floor or on a chair. If you're sitting on a chair, have your feet flat on the floor. Don't lean on the back of your chair, but sit on the edge of the chair. And then you can just follow the zazen instructions I'm giving as though you were sitting on the floor. But I'm assuming many of you are taking your cross-legged position on the floor on a cushion. So the first thing you want to do when you're sitting zazen is make sure that your butt is elevated enough so that your knees are resting firmly on the floor. So don't have a situation if actually I was going to say if you can prevent it, but you can prevent it. So don't have a situation where your knees are off the floor. That's bad for your sciatica nerve, and it's not a solid, stable position. So all you have to do is just keep lifting your butt. I've got a pillow folded in half, and then I've got a very small Zafu meditation cushion, and that keeps my hips and my buttocks elevated to the point where my knees can rest on the floor. It might be that your hamstrings are really stiff, really, really, really super stiff. That will happen. Then you can just take a pillow and put it underneath two pillows and put one underneath each knee, right? So that you're still able to touch the ground, but make sure your knees are touching the ground. So you've got this triangle of your head pointing up. It's like a mountain, and your two knees touching the ground. You can pivot or tilt your hips to get a natural curve in your spine. And you're sitting up straight, but not rigid. In an ideal world, the tip of your nose and your diaphragm or your belly button are parallel, right? I'm going to turn to the side here as I give you this instruction. So your nose and your diaphragm are parallel. You take a few inhales and exhales and kind of bring your mind, if you will, down into your body. Breathe it back into your body. Spend a lot of times in our heads without knowing it. So take an inhale and an exhale. Through the nostrils, the inhale goes, and out of the nostrils, in the nostrils, out the nostrils. Your tongue just lightly touches the roof of your mouth, and your lips are closed. Now you can rest your hands flat on your thighs. That's how we used to do it in the Vajrayana tradition that I trained in for a little while, the Tibetan tradition. Zen practice, sometimes we have our left hand and we take our thumb with our right hand gently like this. And then we hold this mudra down here at our hara or our waist, our belly, our diaphragm area. Make sure no matter what you do that your trapezoid muscles, your neck and your shoulders, make sure they're loose and not tensed up or hunched up. Drop your shoulders down. Take a deep breath and breathe in through your diaphragm. So you're not breathing in through the upper chest area, but down closer to your belly, but not in your belly, just through your diaphragm. Breathe naturally but deeply. And it's a relaxed breath, but not lazy. In the Rinzai Zen tradition, and I think the Soto tradition as well, we keep our eyes open with a soft gaze about 3 or 4 feet ahead of you. So if you're a little bit sleepy, you can raise your gaze a little bit to 4 feet. Um, if you're anxious or distracted, you can lower it to about 3 feet. Right? The gaze is soft, which is to say you're using your peripheral vision. If you don't know what soft means, then just think about using your peripheral vision. The teaching behind keeping the eyes open during meditation is that you're going to include and allow the world around you. When we close our eyes, it's easy to get dreamy, to just go off in la la land. So we want to include the world. So we keep our eyes open with a soft gaze. So we take our posture, and the posture is really, really important. In fact, the posture is everything. Our job isn't actually to meditate or to even do Zazen. Our job is to bring ourselves to the cushion and to take the posture and to continually be attentive to the posture, which means you'll be making micro adjustments to your posture. And that's kind of fun. You sit for a while and you become a sitter, and it's like you feel so good in your body when you take this posture, when you learn how to do this posture, when you do it for many years. And it's like a Michael Jordan or LeBron James shooting the basketball. Like you have such good form, right? So you'll be doing tweaks to your posture micro adjustments to your posture throughout the 25-minute sit, and that's wonderful. Turn off your phone and get it out of the room. If there are any distractions like that, if you can get them out of the room, that's great. This is your space now to sit in and do this practice. And as I said, the job is just to take the posture and don't worry about whether or not you're meditating or doing it right. That'll get in the way of just sitting. So practice is just to take the posture and to inhale and exhale and to give ourselves to that activity of just sitting. So basically, posture and breath. That's what we're giving ourselves to. Even that is too many words. It's just sitting, and the sitting is posture and breath. And that's what we're doing. And we're giving ourselves to it. So we're not thinking about breath. We're not paying attention, if that means we're separate from the activity. We're doing it completely. Like if you're grabbing your child just as they're about to run into traffic, right? Like you're not thinking in that moment, you're doing it. Or you're hugging your grandma or something, you're not thinking it. The last time you're going to see her, you're hugging her, you're not thinking about it. So we're doing. That's the, excuse me, that's the energy we're bringing to the sitting is doing, not thinking. So it's not a mental activity. There's no mantras or koans that we're working on or anything like that. We're just sitting, simplest activity possible. And we do it with humility. So we're not looking for fireworks. It's a practice. It's like working out, to put it sort of crudely. We're doing our practice. We're not expecting any fireworks or anything. And then if fireworks show up, wonderful. If we have some insights, wonderful. If Zazen shows up and we experience samadhi, which is a complete absorption in this activity, wonderful. But that's not our job to do that. Our job is just to hold the posture. And when the thinking mind arises, there's a going to be a moment where you realize it. You realize you were thinking. You awaken to the fact that thinking was happening, and now you can recommit completely to sitting. And then the thinking mind arises again, and the attention is given back to the sitting. That's all we'll do for 25 minutes now. I'll start with 3 bells now, and then I'll end with 1 bell in 25 minutes from now. That's the end of our first sit. We'll have a 5 minute silent meditative rest, what they call kinhin now. You can use the bathroom for stretch your legs. We'll be back in 5 minutes to do our second sit. Hey, we'll start our second sit now. You can change the cross of your legs. So if you had your right leg crossed over your left, now your left leg will cross over your right, and vice versa. I'm going to elevate myself just a little bit higher because my knees weren't touching. So take your seated position now. So if you pick your regular Zazen sitting position, someone just asked, I can explain the leg position again. All I was saying right then was change the cross of your legs so to balance your body out. So if you were sitting Burmese and you had your left leg crossed over your right ankle, now you're going to switch the cross of your legs and put your right leg over your left ankle, if that makes any sense. I'll begin to sit with 3 bells and we'll sit for 25 minutes and I'll end it with 1 bell. Okay. Uncross your legs now. Stretch your legs, and if your foot is frozen like mine is, you can don't stand on a frozen foot. You will keel over and embarrass yourself in the meditation hall. Thanks for joining the practice. For those of you who are going to leave now, for those of you who are sticking around, I will just briefly talk a little bit about Zen. I'm going to share with you something that I was reading earlier today. So it's interesting, like when you begin a sit, you oftentimes are wind up in a very different place mentally. I find myself than I was when I first sat down. Like it's just transported to a different state of mind. And it's always interesting to sit down and do a little zazen meditation sit. I'm finding the more I sit, and especially lately. Um, by the way, if anybody thinks of any questions about practice or Zen, now's a good time to ask it. You can just put it into the chat section down here in YouTube and send me the question if you are so inclined. Um, okay, as I was saying, it's interesting. There's just a reduction of distractions when you're doing zazen meditation. So you have to just sit and do one activity. And when one does that, if they're me at any rate, you realize how distracted your mind can get. It's not a slam dunk or a home run to be able to just sit and focus on your breath and keep your attention on your posture. But the mind is always getting distracted. And it's weird because you're there 1 second, you're in the room, you and it's presence. You're manifesting presence, and we know what that feels like. It's like um, this is a terrible analogy, but I'll use it. I talked earlier about Michael Jordan or LeBron James shooting a basketball, um, and there's that feeling when you're shooting a basketball of getting it everything right, and you let the ball go, and you just know it's going to swoosh, and it swooshes, right? There's that feeling of being able to do the activity. And sometimes when I'm sitting, that feeling is there for zazen. There's the feeling of being completely present in the activity of sitting, and it's a way of being in the room and being with myself completely at the same time. But then the mind gets distracted. But that's okay. One thing I'm learning is to not beat myself up or to get into this thing where I'm trying to do it right, but rather I'm one of the things I'm doing now more and more and more is just holding the distractions, if that makes any sense. So a lot of times if I come to the cushion, I've got some kind of problem uh, that's vaguely in the background of my life. And that problem will come up when I'm sitting for sure. Sometimes a new problem will come up and present itself. Maybe I'll be thinking about my mom who's got maybe some health issues and across the ocean in America. Suddenly she'll come up in my head, or some financial thing will come up, or some fear of some kind, or maybe it's some interesting distraction. I had a really cool conversation the other day, and it distracts me and it comes up and it starts replaying in my head. One thing you can do as you sit is and you and you when you sit with attention is you can begin to hold your distractions with attention. So they're still there, but they're just arising. It's like things within the field of your awareness. These distractions arise, but they don't pull your attention away. You're still there in your sitting with presence, completely exhaling, completely inhaling. And now there are a few of these little birds of distraction flapping around inside your head, right? I hope that makes some sense. Um, because it's hard to sit with distractions and there are always distractions. Our minds are always getting pulled away from whatever we're trying to focus on or give ourselves to. Um, and 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 there's no getting around that. That's what the mind does. It produces these thoughts. It presents us with threats that we have to think about and problems that we have to solve. It's like a tool that's evolutionarily evolved to help us solve problems. So it's always producing this stuff. The only problem for me when I'm sitting is that I get totally, like, literally my eyes get the eyes inside my head, my third eye or whatever it is, gets pulled away by these distractions. But like I said, the more I sit, the more I focus on the exhale and the inhale and focus on just sitting and give myself to that activity and give my attention to that activity, then when those distractions arise, and it can be physical distractions too, physical pain or sounds in the outer environment, it's not just thoughts on the inside. When these potentially distracting things arise, I can hold them or we can hold them in our sitting. Just hold them as we continue to breathe in and breathe out, not indulging the thoughts and not repressing the thoughts, but just kind of just holding them in attention and awareness as we continue to just do our sitting. So I hope that makes some sense. It's more of a fresh thought that I had that I wanted to share with you. And I want to read something to you. I'm not even sure if I'm going to actually explain this. I think I'm just going to read it and let it sit, let it be. Um, okay. Before I get started on that, Jack, sorry about that, sent me a message here. It says, my first time sitting, it felt like my body itself kept distracting me. Muscle tightness, itch. Should I be trying to push those distractions away? What do I do? Okay, this is kind of relevant. So I'm going to quick cover this topic. It's kind of relevant to what I was just saying. So yeah, whether it's a distraction in the body or the mind, but let's just focus on the body. Especially if this is your first time sitting, you're going to have distractions in the body. The body freaks out when you first start sitting. My body was intense and in pain today. So once when I was trying to sit full lotus, which is a very pretzel position during retreat, and it was my knees were swollen, my ankles were swollen, and my anger was swelling. And he said, "Look, what are you doing? Don't be a victim of Zen practice." So um, you want to take a seated position that you can commit to for a length of time. This length of time was 25 minutes. You want to take a seated position that you can commit to for a length of time without moving. And then if pain comes up, as long as you're not hurting yourself, then you just sit through it basically. Um, After a while, your body adjusts to sitting meditation. It's very, 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 very hard at first. I remember that. Hard now. It's not facile. It's not simple. It's not. I mean, it is simple, but it's not easy to sit still. It's not easy. Uh, so it don't give up and don't feel like you're doing it wrong if it's painful at first. You may need to stretch your knees out. There are different. You can Google on the internet meditation stretching for knees and back and hips because you may be really 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 tight. So you may need to do some stretches and stuff like that. But um, unless you're actually hurting yourself, you can probably just sit through the pain because there's going to be pain. And it can be hard, but that's part of the practice. Is you just give your attention to the body and the exhale. You let the boundary of the inside dissolve into the outside as you exhale. When that activity is complete, you inhale and you let the boundary of the inside dissolve as the outside enters you with the inhale. And then, ooh, but there's that pain again. Okay, well, you hold that and you let it hurt as you inhale and then exhale and let it hurt. Let it hurt. Let it hurt. And exhale. Then you inhale. Oh shoot, I forgot the pain for a second. Now it's back. Okay, you let it hurt. Hold it with attention. Again, as long as you're not injuring yourself. I must say this is a huge concern of people. It's been a concern of myself. They're concerned that when they meditate, they're going to injure themselves. I have never seen a meditation injury. Now that I've been doing this for a long time. So probably you're not going to actually hurt yourself. You're just going to feel the pain. And this is one thing I was thinking about as I was sitting now, whether it's anxiety or physical pain or depression, challenges to your sitting can fuel your sitting if you hold them with awareness. So pain can really sharpen your focus and brighten your attention if you hold it without getting pulled away or distracted by it. So there's, of course, the classical story of the Buddha under the Bodh tree as he is meditating and about to become, quote unquote, enlightened, to see the North Star. It's the North Star, I always forget. See the star in the sky and experience enlightenment. And there's like two distractions that he has. There's Mara, and she takes two forms. She takes the form of a beautiful harem to like lure him off the cushion through temptation and desire. And she takes the form, or Mara takes the form of a horrible monster army warrior to drive him off of the cushion through fear, right? So these distractions, whether they're temptations or you know fears and anxieties and those kinds of things, they're you're not the only ones who are experiencing these things. When you sit down on the cushion, this is woven into the very core of the teachings themselves, like the story of the Buddha sitting under the Bodh tree. Oh, okay, one more. Ryan Ryan says, this is always a good one, the falling asleep one. Falling asleep has always been my biggest issue. That's interesting. I still feel a lot better after sitting though. Will you now be offering these monthly sits again? I think so. I stopped doing it for a while for various reasons, but I'm going to try to offer them more now. Yes. Um, So it's good that you didn't ask a question around falling asleep because I don't know what to do about falling asleep. Sometimes you go through falling asleep phases on the cushion, and then sometimes you just don't. I mean, I know people who have falling asleep phases for years and years and years. And to those people, I would recommend, I knew a nun like that at the monastery. And to those people, I would recommend doing walking meditation, not even doing sitting meditation. Like if at past a certain point, you, it's becoming a habit. So there's a phase, sometimes you just need to pass out because you're tired, and that's okay. Um, but I knew a nun where it became a habit, and she almost couldn't meditate. And so then my recommendation in that situation would be to do walking meditation, 25 minutes a day or an hour a day or whatever your normal sitting meditation is. Okay, I'm going to read this to you, and I talked a little bit more than I wanted to because I wanted to read this to you. So I'll just read this, and then I'll leave it. So this is from This is this old book. It's called Buddha is the Center of Gravity. It's pretty crazy. It's like a book that was like self-published by something called the Lama Foundation back in the 60s. So then it says right there, Buddha is not the center of gravity. Buddha is the center of gravity. It's very 60s. It's very like there's all kinds of cool little pictures in here, and some of them are comical. And you can find this for free online. Um, but if you want to buy it, then you have to pay a lot of money. Like these are like three, four, $500 on the internet. I found mine at the old Bodhi Tree bookstore, and it was only $20, and I was so happy when I found it. Okay, this you like that, you'll appreciate this. So it's a bunch of Zen students got together and self-published this, and it was a collection of teishos or lectures that my teacher gave on Hyakujo's fox, the koan from the Mumonkan. So, so he's talking right now about this koan, and says to the students, at this moment, you are listening to the birds. All of you have true nature or the source of God. But how is that true nature illuminating right now when you are listening to the birds? When you illuminate yourself, you don't think of lovers, you don't think of good, you don't think of God, you don't think of evil, you don't think of the devil, you don't think of anything. At that moment, when you are listening to the birds, your ego or your fears and desires, your fixation on yourself, what he calls your unconditionally affirmed self, is completely destroyed or eliminated or gone, as when you're completely exhaling and the boundary between you and the world is gone. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to give that air, that CO2 from your lungs to the world. And then you inhale, and that boundary is gone, and the world enters you through oxygen, right? He says, at that moment when you're completely listening to the birds, when they're coming into you, your ego, your unconditionally affirmed self, your thinking mind is gone, it's destroyed. He says, but you don't know it. When you're listening to a bird and you experience that, your nature, your true nature is illuminating. And you know that the unconditionally affirmed self is destroyed. So now he asks a koan. He says, so when you are listening to the birds, how do you realize God? When you realize God, he uses the word God a lot because he's talking, my teacher did, because he's talking to Westerners and he's trying to inculcate a sense of wonder or capture a sense of he's trying to speak to us with using our own language, I think. At that moment when you are listening to here we go. So when you are listening to the birds, how do you realize God? When you realize God, at that very moment, you are illuminating as the original face. So he says this is a difficult koan in Zen practice. How do you realize God when you are listening to the birds?